Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Uncanny XMen 308. I hope y'all are having a safe, happy Thanksgiving with your loved ones and your friends and staying safe in this crazy time. So I thought this book was very appropriate. So let's go ahead and jump into it. This is called Mixed Blessings, and this is an absolutely beautiful character piece on the X-Men. There's not any real action. It's one of those kind of cool down issues that we've talked about where after a big event, Claremont would do what would be like a softball issue. In this case, it's Thanksgiving Day. This follows up the death of Ileana that we went over, as well as the Fatal Attractions event where Logan got his adamantium ripped out of his body. We'll go over that in time. Now, Stan Lee presents A Tale of the Uncanny X-Men. Scott Liddell writing, John Romita Jr. penciling, Dan Green and Alvey inkers, Chris Ilanopoulos doing the lettering, Steve Buccoletto doing the colors, Bob Harris was the editor, and Tom DeFalco was the editor-in-chief. The print date was January 1994. So an all-star cast on this book, and we open up on Jean and Scott walking the grounds of the Xavier Estate. And it says, Thanksgiving morning, a morning where the very air snaps with the promise of change, where the bright Christmas commands a lifting of hearts and a joining of spirits. And so Scott's kind of asking what Jean's thinking about. And he's like, I've seen that nothing, Jean. And believe me, that's not it. And she goes, I was thinking about the very first moment of recognition between people. The instant strangers can become the closest of friends. I was thinking of Scott at the very moment I realized that you were the one. So that kind of segues back into the Stan Lee days of the X-Men and the play on the words because she goes, wow. And so you're thinking she's saying wow about Scott, but she's talking about the danger room. And she's like, I just wanted to talk with you. And he goes, me? Really? Because when Jean first came, he was sort of shy about it and was really kind of held back, as where in the original X-Men #1, everyone else kind of flocked around her and started flirting with her and like, get the lady a chair, da-da-da-da-da. It's really interesting, so make sure to check it out. So anyway, you kind of start to see that Jean gets the googly eyes and she asks what his real name was. And he goes, I was embarrassing? She goes, not too embarrassing. And she's like, I remember every sight and smell and taste as if it happened yesterday, and you weren't. Embarrassing. And again, 90s. I like these pages because it allows for more art and just kind of really helps tell the story. Again, show don't tell. And even though this book may seem a little wordy, it's going somewhere. It's Scott and Jean really having a heart-to-heart about their relationship. She goes, you weren't embarrassing. You were cute. And so he falls off the ladder because he's working on the danger room. And he's like, Marvel Girl, get clear. If I lose my Rubicort glasses, and she grabs him because of her telekinesis. And he's like, are you sure you're not embellishing these memories? Not even a little. Though it may be filtered through the eyes of a young girl's first love. He's like, I really shouted get clear. And so while all this is happening, we now get into the rest of the X-Men. We see Beast and Jubilee bouncing through the leaves. And just listen to the way he's talking. He's like, clear the aisle, everybody. Way cool people coming through. He's like, my own preferred path clear is thermomolecular enhanced caffeine extract. And Jubilee is like, what's that? Hot coffee. And so he's just bouncing, and they're both just having a heck of a good time. And you see Banshee and Forge and Storm are trying to rake all the leaves that Beast is destroying. And Storm is furious. But you can see Forge and Banshee are smiling. It's like, it's nice to see the wee lass smiling now, isn't it? And Forge is like, it's the first one I've seen or wear since Logan took off to lick his wounds. And so this refers to Uncanny X-Men 25 and Wolverine 75, which is part of Fatal Attractions. And so why Storm is so mad at Henry, he's laying there in the leaves, and he goes, 1,000 pardons, O mighty mistress. A million pardons. A Google pardons. It does not matter. Okay. Infinity pardons. But that's as far as it goes. A man has got to have a little dignity. So here we look at more modern books from probably like AVX moving forward. Scott and Beast have just been grossly written out of character, where now it's like a lot of hate and bitterness. That is not the X-Men that we know. Scott has always been like the person that watches over the team because he was the first X-Men that was recruited from Xavier out of the orphanage, so that Mansion and his teammates are his family, because he didn't know his father was alive, he didn't know his brother was alive, so he clings tightly to this. And of course, Beast, no matter what may happen, he was always kind of the wisecracker of the team, even though he was the smartest one in the room. And so there's just a lot of laughs. You know, it's nice to kind of have a cool down issue after so much drama to just kind of... So Scott says, why don't you guys play some football? You know, he kind of throws the ball, and Bobby tries to explain what football is to Bishop, because he's like, didn't you ever build scarecrows on Thanksgiving when you were a kid? He's like, I spent my life running from end plates and stuff, because he's from that post-apocalyptic future. And then Jean sees what Scott's doing, and she goes, you don't even realize you're doing it, do you? Doing what? Being here for all of us. Finding the right words. And then we get a flashback to when Jean was first part of the recruited into the team, and she's talking about how her telekinesis is lashing out, and it feels like she has a million voices in her head. And Xavier's like, well, I put psychic barriers in the mind to help you, but it seems that something is overriding those. And he's like, let's find out what it is. And she goes, oh, it seems to be this young man. And so you see her get this big goofy smile on her face, and this is where Jean starts to talk about how she just looked at it for hours and how she was in love with him. And so again, in between this over arc of Scott and Jean, we kind of get seeing the team playing football, everyone enjoying themselves, and then we get a talk about the Dark Phoenix Saga, and how even though the Phoenix was a malevolent... No, wait. Yes, I think that's the right word for evil, and wanted to destroy everything, but because it was attached to Jean, there was still that part of the woman that Scott loved. Now, while all this is going on, you know, there's like this heavy emotion with this kind of lightheartedness tied in. We get an interlude, just like you would with the old Chris Claremont books, and it just says, a pleasant home, a quiet street. His name is unimportant. He could be anyone. Anyone who has given up the notion that the government will protect him and his family where a world has gone suddenly rife with menace. We see him drive away in a bus called Phalanx, which is another event that happens down the road. So again, I like how Liddell really stuck to kind of some of the tropes that Claremont did, because it really helped enhance the stories. And on top of that, he was just a great story writer, and he loved the X-Men. I mean, he really pulled through with the Age of Apocalypse, not Doomsday, what was that we just ran over? Onslaught. So you could tell that Liddell really did have a soft spot for the X-Men. And if you're going to write the team, make sure you have some backstory and you have some passion. And so here, again, some more lightheartedness there in the huddle, or there at the lineup. And I like how Beast's like, just so we're clear, compadres, the losers, or you. Oh, the winners, or us, the first round at Harry's. And Bishop's just like, sounds fair. Since drinking your meals through a straw will be the only option open to you after we're done with you. So, you know, what's his name? Forge kicks the ball. Everyone's going for it. Warren swoops in and he's like, after I score this touchdown, kids, you can decide whose team I'm on. And so everyone's bickering, playfully, of course. And Scott's like, from a distance, they almost sound like a family. And so what I like is all their beats lead into their discussion. So after that, they talk about Rachel. And she's like, shouldn't we start our own family? And he's like, well, what about Rachel? And she's like, well, I don't like the idea that the future already has this pattern for me that I feel like I have to follow. She's like, I'll always love Rachel, and she is my daughter. But I want to start talking about us building a family in the here and now. And he's like, well, what about Nathan from me and Madeline? And she goes, I love Nathan. She goes, I've never experienced a bond as strong as the one that's between you and Nathan. The decision you made to send him into the future saved his life. That sacrifice alone was more than any man should be asked to. And before you can get any more into the heaviness, we see Forge tackle Banshee. But what she's talking about here is the end game that happened in XFactor. Absolutely amazing read. We will go over it because that is a heavy read, but it is a great one nonetheless. So see how these beats happen where we get this heaviness, but then there's moments to just kind of, what do you call it, like comic relief in a sense, to kind of break that tension bubble. And so the ball's fumbling, everybody's going after it, and I like how Gambit's like, come to Papa, little Bolly. And Beast is like, casting aspirations upon its heritage is no way to endeavor oneself to the pigskin in question. And as they're going, Professor Xavier's like, as I was saying, and the paneling, we see all these legs, we see these shadows going at Xavier. He's like, dinner is served. And so they all crash into Xavier. And I like that they leave it off panel because you just say, sorry, is he okay? Look at his nose. My shoe is caught in your spoke. And so Cyclops is like, I'm going to go check on the professor. And Jean's just like, marry me. What did you say? And now there was supposed to be a dialogue box here, but that was a printing error. And what happens is if you go back to X-Men 310 and look at the X-Mail, they actually point that out. So everything that they've been talking about, Jean talks about how our love is strong and can overcome anything. And so Xavier, everyone's around the table. And you can see that he kind of has bruises and bumps. But he's like, I like to think of Thanksgiving as my new year. He's like, I'm hard-pressed to recall a year when we've been called to face such bitter tragedies. So he goes about talking about Peter leaving to join Magneto at the beginning of Fatal Attractions, the death of Ileana, what happened to Wolverine. And he's like, I'm still proud that all of you, through these tragedies, call yourselves X-Men. So while there's a heavy conversation going on, Jean and Scott burst in and they say, we're getting married. So that kind of, again, a beat that breaks the tension bubble. And so it was a very loving way that they did this. This, to me, feels like very much like a love letter to the X-Men and everything that came before. Now, it says here that Xavier does have his hesitations, but he says that inside he's swelling with pride. And he's like, there's no way, he doesn't want to spoil the moment because he actually gets to see his children happy. So, Uncanny X-Men 308, absolutely amazing read, guys. If you get a chance today after you've stuffed yourself with turkey and have enjoyed your friends, if you have this issue, sit down and read it. It's definitely worth your time. And if you've enjoyed this book, please make sure to support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love to hear your feedback and just talk with y'all down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all continue to have a wonderful Turkey Day, and happy hunting, true believers.